What's going on, everyone? Quick disclaimer before we get into today's episode with Jim and Mark. It is a great episode. We're talking about all things FTX. The reason I wanted to give this disclaimer is because FTX is a particularly sensitive topic. It's also an unfolding situation right now. We don't have a lot of the facts, and the facts that we do have are subject to change. Everything that is expressed in today's episode is largely based on opinion and firmly within the realm of speculation. Furthermore, as you'll see later in the show, some of the opinions that get expressed during today's episode are not necessarily things that I agree with and don't necessarily reflect the view of Blockworks, but on the margin is an exploration of big ideas. It is a debate at a philosophical level. Just because I don't agree with something doesn't mean that it shouldn't necessarily be in the show. And I'm going to leave it to all of you, my very smart viewers and audience, to make up your own minds about what you see today. So with that being said, I got a great show for you, and I want to welcome Jim and Mark. All right, everyone, welcome back to another weekly roundup edition of On the Margin. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Mark Yusko, and we've got a guest host on for you here today, Jim Bianco. Jim, Mark, welcome to the show, guys.
No, so excited, and I'm super excited that Jim wore the color that I wanted to wear, blood red. Now, I'm going to do the quick reveal. So I do have the Lord Rothschild red pants on instead of the Bitcoin orange, and I have the Bitcoin cold storage or Bitcoin winter, crypto winter socks. I went back and forth this morning. I didn't know whether I was going to wear the rest in peace. So I got the black on top, the rest in peace Bitcoin. Again, we had 503rd article saying that Bitcoin was dead this week. 503. It's amazing.
Nice.
And
crack 500.
Yeah. So, but I went with the crypto winter. People think we're back to crypto winter. We're not. This was just a nor'easter. I live down here in North Carolina, and about every 10 years or so, we get a monster storm in the middle of spring, snowstorm. And it's just a nor'easter that spins off the coast, drops all this snow, and makes living in North Carolina hell for about a week because we don't know how to deal with snow. But I think that's what this whole FTX debacle has been. So anyway, that's my ensemble for today. But Jim's got the right color, blood red, because there is blood in the streets.
Did you do that intentionally, Jim? Do you dress for us this morning?
I wasn't thinking of it, but I do have my sock reveal. I have no socks on.
Oh,
because that's where we are today. That's where we are today in the markets. We're busted out with no socks.
Yeah, we are. For those of you who aren't following along with video, Jim, I was pretty impressed by that flexibility, my man. I'm not sure I could have done that little maneuver that you just pulled all the way up to the camera there.
I'll be in physical therapy this afternoon. By the way, what are we going to talk about? Because not much happened. So I guess Mark and I we could talk. We could talk Notre Dame football for the first half hour or so. How about that Clemson game?
Yes, unbelievable. I don't recognize that team after.
Yes, where'd they find those 85 guys for that game? Right.
Oh man, no kidding. It was. I just did on that. It is rare to watch a team dominate another team, unless you watch Alabama football, which does it all the time. But I mean, Clemson's not a bad team. They might not be the Clemson of old, but they're not a bad team. And Notre Dame dominated both sides of the ball. I sit like right behind the visitor bench, and Dabo was pissed like the whole game. I mean, he was pissed at everybody. He was pissed at the offense. He was pissed at the defense. He was pissed at the special teams coaches. He was just pissed.
They came through on the air too. You could see it with him on the air too.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate that, Jim. Thank you for that.
All right, guys, we'll make this podcast majority Notre Dame football, but I think the audience would be a little pissed off if we didn't talk about FTX at all. So basically, I'll give a timeline of events, then I'm just going to toss it over to you guys because I'd love to get your high level take. But essentially, this kind of this is all unraveled very quickly, right? And from my way of thinking about it, this kind of started at around 11 a.m. on Sunday. There was I guess the first salvo in this was a tweet from SBF himself. Responding to someone else saying, "Oh, hey, glad to see CZ in Binance. Is he allowed in Binance?" CZ responds around 11 a.m. on a Sunday, basically saying something to the effect of, "We are selling our FTT." Caroline Ellison, the CEO at Alameda, responds, "CZ, within minutes, CZ, if you'd like to minimize the market impact of FTT, we'll buy everything from you at $22." A lot of people watching this thought that was pretty funny, calling out a price target. I mean, the implication was if Alameda actually wanted to buy FTT at the most advantageous prices, they just let it dump. buy it all back and make a profit. It seemed like they were trying to set a floor, basically.
Just for background, I run Bianco Research, and I am affiliated with a brokerage firm, Arbor Research and Trading. That doesn't make me an expert in brokerage firms, but I've been around one and I've been a part owner of one for almost 30 years now. And you never, ever, ever put a price floor or a price level out there, because you're basically saying below this price, we're done. And you know that every speculator is going to say, okay, I can short it to $21.99, and then the price will collapse to $3 and I could cover my short. You're challenging the entire market to test that level. You never, ever do that. And that was just such a fundamental mistake.
Originally, I think what kicked this off actually was CoinDesk reported on Alameda's balance sheet. It was about $14.6 billion worth of assets. I think everyone was pretty shocked by what that was comprised of. Like Alameda, was kind of thought of as this bulletproof, very smartest guys in the room, sharks type. That was their vibe, right? You didn't hear a lot from them.
Enron.
You had that idea, right? They were on the right side of every trade, all this stuff. And then when you looked at their balance sheet, it was an enormous amount of FTT, right? It was about $2 billion worth of actual FTT, about $3 billion worth of FTT that had yet to be unlocked. A lot of people looked at the float of FTT and said, wow, they're about to unlock more FTT than the entire circulating float of this token. And then it was like a whole bunch of Solana ecosystem tokens. And I think most people, when they looked at Alameda's balance sheet, would have expected to see a whole bunch of cash, maybe some Bitcoin, maybe some ETH. This was very surprising to a lot of people. And we can get into like the myth that built around Alameda and how Sam kind of talked about it in the early days. But I think this basically just spooked a lot of people. Essentially, what this caused was a run on FTX. A lot of people, ourselves included, I think when this was happening, you're thinking to yourself, FTX is an exchange, right? Why would there be a run on an exchange? And when people were, when this was happening, when people were withdrawing from FTX, these sleuths were trying to pinpoint the cold storage wallet of FTX. They were looking for where did the funds sit on chain.
Back to my socks. You can do that. The cold storage socks. There we go.
The cold storage socks. You can do that for other large chains, right? Like you can go on Nansen, you can look at Binance's cold wallets where a bunch of Bitcoin and Ethereum are sitting. And everyone was like, well, I couldn't do it for FTX. This was when people began to speculate that there was no cold wallet because the funds at FTX were actually being lent out to Alameda. And the picture that has since emerged is basically what happened is a bunch of customer deposits from FTX were lent out to Sam's trading arm. There was no Chinese firewall in between these two institutions. It was collateralized with FTT, hence the $22 price point and why that was so important. People basically figured out this relationship. And now it looks like the hole, right, in FTX's balance sheet is about anywhere from $6 to $10 billion worth of customer deposits that got lent to Alameda, which were levered to the price of FTT, which has since collapsed into oblivion. So they basically have no hope of paying it back.
So can we put a definition on what hole means? What that means is that they took your money, my money, or anybody's money on FTX. They speculated with it over at Alameda, and they lost it. And now that everybody wants their money back, they don't have it anymore. And that's what the hole means. And so they need somebody to show up. I guess the latest one who's trying to show up is Justin Song. He's saying he's got billions to give to them. We'll see if that materializes. To fill that hole so you can reopen the firm. But the problem with that is what's going to happen when you reopen the firm? That $6 billion is going to leave. So is the firm worth $6 billion? Because that's what you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to put 6 in and then let everybody leave and then say what's left. I'm willing to pay $6 billion for it.
Yeah, and it's worse. It's worse, right? There are allegations, and I can't substantiate them, but there's a lot of things that are pointing to them being true. That some of the money wasn't actually speculated away. I might give someone a pass for being a bad trader, right? I won't give them a pass. Yeah, if they were doing the right market, right? But if they were punting in stocks, which has been alleged, no favor for that, right? That is unconscionable. But this is a bunch of crypto bros and millennials and day traders and meme stalkers. So okay, fine, that could have happened. But I guess bros and broettes. I don't know what the term for gal is, but there's at least one. But here's the thing.
I've never heard broette.
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe we could coin that.
We could coin that on the show. But here's the thing. There are allegations that money was given directly to political candidates. That's not a coincidence.
Well, I think there are multiple levels to unpack here, and there's so many different angles that we could approach talking about this, but I want to talk about contagion and the impact of this unwinding. Basically, I want to talk about the political implications here, because I think in many ways the most damaging thing that SBF did was make these donations and then essentially take all these photos. Right, he was the golden boy kind of in DC, and the word around that the Hill was basically go meet with Sam, and you're going to have your campaign donations taken care of for the next X number of years, and take a picture with him while you're at it because he's the golden boy. Now he's essentially embarrassed these people.
Yep.
And now they're going to have to look tough as a result. So,
Michael,
maybe
that was the plan. That was the plan. This is the plan. The regulatory avalanche that's coming was the plan.
So
let's
talk about
this.
This is scary stuff.
It is coming. You're absolutely right. It's one thing if you take $300 from somebody who does something inappropriate, you give the money back and you badmouth them. But when you take the amount of money that he gave out, you can't give it back. So the only way you can save your embarrassment is you have to punish somebody or something. And that's the crypto industry. What's coming next is not regulation. It's punishment is what's coming next.
Punishment.
Yeah. And that's what.
Yeah. But it's not going to be the perpetrators. Caroline will not be punished. SBF will not be punished. Mark my words. Neither one of them will be punished. We, the industry, will be punished.
So what does punishment look like in this, right? There was but before all of this happened, right? It's SBF within kind of core crypto circles. There were two very different, people outside of crypto and people inside of crypto viewed him in two extremely different ways, I would say. Sam was basically the cover of every magazine, right? He had the naming rights to the Miami Stadium down there. He sponsored TSA. He was this, and in DC, he was kind of seen as this very pragmatic,
the next Warren Buffett. The next Warren Buffett is fortune.
That was the title of the magazine article.
Right.
Michael, have you met him?
I've interviewed him before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What was your take of his intellectual prowess when you interviewed him?
My honest gut take is that he's a smart dude. He's a smart guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he had a couple of analogies that really helped me understand a whole bunch of things. I thought the interview that he did on Invest Like the Best with Patrick O'Shaughnessy, the guy has an understanding of how markets work, at least in my opinion. I thought he described it pretty well.
Went to
MIT. He's got an MIT degree. Yeah, I was going to say.
He has an MIT degree. So in theory, he's a really smart guy, right? Did you watch the Voorhees debate?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad that you brought that up because if you are sympathetic to crypto, you thought he got trounced in that debate, right? You thought he was on his back foot, reactive, etc. We're moving, shameless shelf promotion, we're moving DAS to DC because that is basically where the most important conversations are going to happen in this industry over the next 2 years. I've been having a lot of conversations with regulators. We watched two different debates. The DC crowd thought that Eric Voorhees came across as ideological, unrealistic, and rather childish. And they thought SBF came across as the adult in the room, the guy who had a sound head on his shoulders. I'm telling you, we watched two different debates.
No. This is the PSYOP. Did you watch the last part where he was giving him the email analogy and having Sam then try to refute? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sam was looking at his feet. His right arm was shaking. He went and he was a huddled mass.
He wasn't even on camera half the time. The camera was at the top of his head, and stuff. And I've seen enough of his interviews that he's at least enough tech savvy. I'm like, what's going on here? He knows when the camera's not faced on him, and he seemed distracted. That wasn't the Sam Bankman-Fried I've seen in other interviews.
They are pawns in a chess game And he is not the grandmaster. CZ is not the grandmaster.
So we should go to Caroline's father and who Caroline's father worked with? Is that the next point we want to go? Caroline's father is the head of the economics department at MIT, where Sam got his degree. And
that was
who
the
was on the
boss
staff? The boss of Gary Gensler when he was doing his blockchain course over at MIT. His boss,
and Gary
father.
Has some job now. Gary has a job now.
Yeah, I think it's the Southeastern Conference. Oh no, the other SEC.
Oh, Southeastern. Yeah, back to football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh God, maybe this could be my young naivete here. I'm going to push back here and say I'm not sure how this could be part of a plan, because I just think this is a guy who had an enormous amount of hubris. Who I do think my honest gut take is that he was a smart guy. Like I think he was a smart guy. I think he did I think basically I agree with your analysis at the top of this, Jim, which is that basically this entire industry got levered to Luna, which is shocking to me, but they did. And what happened was everyone basically blew up on the same thing, but FTX, because they had more resources, were able to hide it more effectively.
Michael, who blew up Luna?
I mean, I think they had something pretty unsustainable.
Who wrote the tweet on exactly how you blow up Luna?
I'm actually not 100% sure.
So we know it exists, right? It went line by line. You borrow the Bitcoin, you short the Bitcoin, you do the following things. You know about the third to the fourth epoch in the anchor thing. So it was laid out in November of last year, line by line. And they accused, the collective, we all accused Citadel or JP Morgan or somebody like that, BlackRock. Let me go with this for a second. What if it was them? So here's the weird thing. If you're a regulator, which group would you investigate first? A shady offshore group, not incorporated in the US, with their major investor, a Chinese national. That's nothing against Chinese nationals, but that, we have this weird thing in the US that's against China now. It's like the Soviet Union. Or would you go after a firm based in New Jersey or a firm based in Kansas City that does crypto lending? I don't know. I probably would go after the offshore one. Oh, no. So Otteru, which, by the way, the Otteru Twitter account, shut down, gone. How did Otteru get inside documents on Celsius and leak them? And then who shows up to save them? Oh, FTX. And then they decide not to. Oh, how does Otteru get inside documents on BlockFi and leak them? And who shows up? FTX. Voyager. Shocking. FTX. So what if, right? Again, go all the way back to the beginning. This was the plan to say, what is the greatest threat to the banks? What's the greatest threat to the banks?
A new financial system.
A new financial system.
Based on self-sovereignty.
Based on self-sovereignty. Things like stable coins. If $1 million leaves the banks and goes into a stable coin, do the banks care? Whatever. $1 billion. Don't care. $100 billion. Now we have a problem. So what do? You attack the stable coin first with your PSYOP organization that you set up, that they set up. Gensler and Ellison and Fried or Fry. Is it lost on anyone the irony that Sam Bankman Fried? Am I the only one that sees that? Right?
Yeah.
You pronounce it Fried, but it's written Fried, and it's Bankman. So the banks organized this whole thing. They took down Luna, and what happened the next day? Literally, not even 12 hours after Luna collapsed, who was on TV calling for regulation of stablecoins? Janet Yellen.
Yeah, but hold on. Sorry, I'm gonna push back.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mark. I don't agree with you. I think this was entirely self-inflicted by our own industry. I got to be honest. I know a lot of these people. Like I've known some of the teams that have collapsed, and I got to be honest with you. Not everyone. I will say, BlockFi shut its doors yesterday. RIP. BlockFi is an excellent management team. I personally know some of the management teams of these companies. They're not moles. They are, I'm sorry, maybe nice people. They're incompetent. Like I know a lot of these management teams. I just view them as like, this was a totally self-inflicted wound. I think this was a story of like ego gone awry. This was an Icarus, like flying too close to the sun type deal. I don't know. I mean, you could make an argument here about like what CZ's ultimate aim was. I'm starting to really view CZ within the mold of like the Gilded Age of like the Carnegie and the Rockefeller. Like I have this anecdote prepared. I want to go back and talk about what Rockefeller did when he was consolidating the oil industry and the railroads. Like it reads like something that we're watching right now, but I just don't, I have a lot of trouble believing that this is I just think it's self-inflicted. I personally,
It's self-inflicted.
It's self-inflicted.
Yeah, self-inflicted to the extent that I don't think that this was CZ's plan to bury FTX in this way. I think when his tweet came out to say, I'm going to sell my FTT, let's back up. Mark, to take it one step further, what else was FTX doing? Was they were whispering to reporters, bad things about CZ. And there was even stories written about his kids. And that really upset CZ that Sam was doing that. So they had a big falling out. And then Sam spending all this money, as I like to term it, he was trying to get Congress to write the FTX business plan as the crypto regulation. And so CZ wanted to put him down, not put him down, collapse him. He wanted to embarrass him. So I'm going to sell my FTX token and I'm going to make a quick remark that you're going behind our back in Washington. But I don't think his plan ever envisioned, in 36 hours, this firm will be done at that point. And part of the problem there, I think, is not only did we not understand that Alameda essentially blew up with Luna, and it's a legacy of that, but brokerage firms operate on trust. That's all you have. Why do we have capital rules? Why do we have segregated assets? Why do we have haircuts? That's all a ruse to make you say, trust me with your money.
Yeah, right.
Now, the problem is, going back to what you said about with Washington viewed it one way, I'm with the crypto audience. I've had a suspicion about Sam for a long time, going back to the Odd Lots podcast in the spring when he called DeFi basically a Ponzi scheme and a scam. And that he did not have the best interest in heart for this industry when he was talking in Washington. Brian Armstrong, who I think the world of, he's having closed door meetings in Washington all the time with regulators. No problem. I trust that my interest, the industry's interest are aligned with his interest. Sam's closed door meetings, I don't trust him. So at the first sign of trouble, I think the industry was ready to cut and run from this guy. And so what CZ didn't realize was he opened the doors to hell and everybody ran. The money wasn't there to meet the withdrawals. And that's why they wound up having to close their doors. By the way, I said, I've been in the brokerage business, and we saw this with MF Global, with John Corzine 10 years ago.
I was going to say
this happens. Yeah. This happens. The inappropriate use of customer funds. There is a 100% track record that
he worked for some firm. I can't remember the name, but what firm did he work for?
I think it started with Goldman and ended with Sachs. Is that the firm
you're
referring to?
Right.
Or you're not referring to the firm?
Goldman kind of sounds like Bankman. Right?
Yes. I mean, you're not talking about the firm was
kin somehow. They're probably related somehow.
He had another job in between, and it started with governor and ended with New Jersey as well too. Yeah, there was that job as well. But
Corzine was also the guy who oversaw. There was a hedge fund that blew up called Long Term Capital Management, and Goldman very famously, when Long Term was in trouble. They were looking for a bailout. They said, hey, Goldman, come take a look at our books, right? So they drove out to Greenwich, Connecticut. Corzine goes and takes a look at the books. And what does he do? Does he help them? No. He funnels their positions to Goldman traders so they can poach it and actually make it worse. Goldman made a whole bunch of money, but sorry, let me just,
Yeah, so this industry, operates on trust. And when that trust is gone, I was just going to say, I've seen this. Mark, you've probably seen this. 100% of the time that a brokerage firm has to suspend withdrawals because of a bank run, it becomes permanent. When you suspend, you are done. You never recover from that. And that's going to be the problem that BlockFi is going to have right now too, it's almost impossible to recover from that. The last thing I want to bring up is FTX. I want to make sure everybody understands this is more than just, my account, your account, retail accounts. There are other brokerage firm accounts, BlockFi we found out, there are VC accounts, Multicoin's in there. There are trading accounts that are in there as well too. Galaxy Digital has already said they're on the hook for $77 million. And there are many, many more. Professional accounts need access to their money constantly. You or me, oh, okay, I can't get my money till tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. But a professional account has obligations, has trades to settle now. They have to bring money in now. When you suspend that, they default then to their counterparties, who then, because you defaulted them, have to default to their counterparties. This is going to be a daisy chain that's going to go on for months. The daisy chain from Terra continued this week with FTX. Mm-hmm. The daisy chain from FTX could go on for another year before we finally find out. It took us 6 months to get to this point with FTX from Terra. How long is it going to take before we get to the end of the line with this FTX problem? And now
it's going to go. It's going to go. And here's the thing. It's all going back to Sam's mom. It's all going back to the Democratic Party. Y'all do know, right, that, you had the big memo yesterday, the humble brag from Sequoia. Oh, yes, we lost $150 million, but we've made $7.4 billion on our other stuff. Love that. You guys do know that Sam personally invested $500 million into Sequoia and one other firm. And where did that money come from?
Where did that money come from? I actually
looked at that
and I was like,
Michael,
I was like, where is this?
It's the whole. This is a money laundering. This is a money laundering front for the Democratic Party. This whole thing, this entire organization is funneling money into, because who are the partners of those Silicon Valley firms contributing to the super PAC that Sam's mom runs? Check it out. This is one of the most unbelievably elegant takedowns of a competitive threat. This rivals what, to your point, back to history, what JP Morgan and John D. Rockefeller did to the Knickerbocker Trust and the entire trust industry when the trust industry was taking share from their beloved banking industry. They spread a rumor that Knickerbocker Trust, was insolvent. You've seen the picture, the men and women in their top hats and their dresses and their umbrellas doing the run on the bank. Who stepped up to personally guarantee? JP Morgan.
JP. I'd love to get a sense from you guys of like the magnitude of the, what's your sense of the magnitude of the contagion that's going to play out here? Because I think one of the things that was a little surprising to me is my interpretation of what's come out in crypto is that all of this activity, right, in 2021, the majority of it was basically 10 enormous firms that were levering up and trading with each other. So there's a lot of comparison to this being crypto's Lehman moment. The difference, right? What was that big money market fund that, broke the buck?
Reserve fund.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What was the exposure to Lehman paper in that fund?
4%. It was 4%. They printed 96 cents on their NAV the day after Lehman filed for bankruptcy.
So what would you guess is the average exposure that these other counterparties have to Alameda? You basically know that they have exposure to Alameda, and the best case, right, would be sub 5%, right? In some of these cases, you have to imagine it's much, much higher than that.
Oh, sure.
So that's why I'm just like, it's hard to imagine how this daisy chain is going to settle out and what's going to happen when all the dust settles, because I think someone has to come in and backstop this, right? Like, am I getting this wrong? Am I being too dramatic?
No, you're not getting this wrong. See, the problem with centralized exchanges is that the business model is inherently unstable. it blows up all the time. It does in TradFi all the time. It blew up in 2008. It blew up with MF Global in 2011. It blew up in 2020. What's the difference
Savings and loan crisis? I mean, you can go back,
exactly. What's the difference in TradFi? You've got a central bank with a printing press that steps in and says, we'll just run this thing, the printing press, as long and as hard as we can to basically make this problem go away. There is no printing press in crypto. So that's what's missing. If you want to continue with a centralized model of brokeraging, you're going to need some kind of version of a central bank in crypto. Otherwise, you're going to have to move to DeFi, because DeFi, what is not a problem here? All the big DeFi protocols, they just work. And you don't like the price because it's falling, but they just work. We'd have to move to that model. People on Twitter are trying to just draw that distinction between CeFi and DeFi, and I do too. But I could tell you who's going to be most difficult to draw that distinction to. Go to Congress and try to explain the difference between CeFi and DeFi to a congressman. They just hear crypto, and they just been told by JP Morgan after they just gave them a big donation, crypto bad, do something about it. And that's exactly what they're going to do. Look, they're not going to make a distinction between CeFi and DeFi. It's crypto. And that's the problem.
Yeah. And look, we've all heard over the years, at some point, the government's just going to ban it. Well, you can't ban a decentralized thing, right? It's like squeezing air in a balloon. The air just goes someplace else. But what you can do is you can destroy the on-ramps and off-ramps. You actually can't even ban those because they'll just move to another jurisdiction. But you can do what they just did. You can sow the seeds of doubt, create the bank run that Jim just described, and then you end up with an obliteration. But here's the thing. Over the course of time, from the 1700s to the 1800s to the 1900s, this has gone on multiple times, right? There have been multiple attempts to challenge the 800-year reign of the banksters. Multiple attempts. All kinds of different things, from savings and loans to, the trust companies in the 1890s to the free banking era, where they outlawed national banks. There have been lots of attempts. But at the end of the day, the Rothschilds and the Morgans and all the other members of the cabal come back and they destroy the trust that Jim talks about in these emergent systems. Investment banks, had a great run until what? Well, until they got greedy and got over leveraged. Because at the end of the day, there's a tipping point. Some leverage, perfectly appropriate. Too much leverage, lethal. And that's what happened here. Is if you think about why did Celsius go down so fast? Well, two reasons. One, excess leverage, but also this silly, own token where you pump up the price to create equity. Same problem with FTT. BlockFi survived the longest. Why? Because they weren't doing that. There was no BlockFi token. There was no excessive leverage. They had a couple of bad loans, and the hole wasn't even that big. I mean, the hole was measured in, hundreds of millions as opposed to billions. So, but it was still a hole. And it was all come back to risk management.
My heart goes out to Zach and Flory. Honestly.
All of it goes back to risk management. And here's the thing. As much as I love what I do right now, right? I've gotten into this industry. It's populated by these incredibly young, talented people, but they're young. And they are young. Don't have experience, particularly in the TradFi world. And the TradFi world is all about risk management. It's all about risk management.
Mark, you hear that from some in the industry, in the crypto industry right now, going, we're making the same mistakes as TradFi. I'm like, yes, because if you were in the TradFi space, you'd see that you don't do this and you don't do that because you know what the outcome's going to be. And how do I know that? Because it's already exploded in my face in the TradFi space. So don't do it here. And so yes, the crypto space is making the same mistakes. And by the way, to your point, Mark, about, that everything always comes down to protect the bankers. What came out of the 1907 crisis? The Federal Reserve. That was the catalyst to say we need a regulator to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And remember, things moved a little slower. Then by 1913, they created the Federal Reserve System. Then.
Well, and they got that model. I can't remember, from the Bank of England, which got the model, because that was the Rothschild clan that had left the Netherlands, which set up the original central bank. And it was propagated by JP Morgan's best friend's father-in-law, Amory Aldrich. It's shocking how it all comes back to the same people every single time. And look, at the end of the day, and I said it on stage, and maybe I'm going to turn out to look like an idiot. Not the first time. I said,
don't worry, Mark. If you do, you've got the Up Only podcast to go to.
There you go. All right, there you go. I said the 800-year run of the banksters is over. We're here. The crypto industry is here. We're going to create this new financial system. And it was like, no, it's not crypto. It's Bitcoin only. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go there. I mean, I have the buy Bitcoin sign. I love Bitcoin. But there's more to it than just Bitcoin.
Oh,
and it is a new financial system.
That is why I've been such a big proponent of this. It is a new financial system, especially with DeFi. And you're right. And Mike and I were talking about this right before you jumped on. What just infuriates me about the Bitcoin maxi argument is take that vitriol and aim it at JP Morgan. Don't aim it at Ethereum.
Amen.
That's who
Fight
your
a common
problem
enemy.
is.
Fight a common enemy.
Yeah, don't think that tearing down Ethereum is the fix. It's the TradFi system that you have to go after. But they've got their anger pointed in the wrong direction.
Yep.
So I guess Jim, maybe if you had to weigh in on Mark's point, where maybe there is some nefarious activity going on the TradFi front. Maybe it's some sort of money laundering ring for the Democratic Party. There certainly are weird connections, I will say, between Alameda and people's parents and Sam and everything. And like my personal, if I had to in one sentence describe the difference between this and 2017, 2018, in 2017, everyone knew it was vaporware. So when it collapsed, I don't think people were surprised. This time, everything was vaporware, but you had a very professional market apparatus and people just took leverage out on that vaporware. So like, that's what I think is happening. I think it's just unwinding, and this is totally a self-inflicted wound. I'd be curious where you sort of fall on the spectrum of those two descriptions of what's happening.
Well, I mean, effectively what Mark describes is what has happened. I mean, he was the second largest donor to the Democrat Party after George Soros. He was a $40 million donor in this recent election cycle. And by the way, just a quick aside, raise your hand if you thought Monday morning, oh yeah, the midterm election would be like the fourth or fifth most important story of the week. Because that's essentially what's happened with that. He was the largest donor to the Oregon governor's race. And so by doing that, go ask Ken Griffin a simple question. You are a huge donor to the Republican Party. Does that put a target on your back? Oh yeah, it puts a target on your back. Even, but you have to be willing to accept that target. And I don't know if Sam, really understood that. Don't make statements like, I'll spend $1 billion to sink Trump. All right, you may believe that and you may want that, but there's 50% of the country that is going to come after you for a statement like that. Are you ready for that coming after you? And I don't think he quite understood that. And that's why a lot of corporations, at least used to, not so much now, used to spread money around to everybody. That's why they didn't want to make an enemy of anybody. If you want to make an enemy of half the country, donate just to one side. And that was a big problem that angered a lot of people. And then don't forget, our system of government is so corrupt anyway that it is an indictment that he's spending all his money in Washington talking to regulators. And like I said, he's taking the FTX business plan and making it the law of the land because we have a corrupt system, because you can do that if you have enough money.
Let's just back up. I agree with everything Jim says. Absolutely everything Jim says. But let's just back up 1 second. What is the FTX business plan? That's the part that's so mysterious here, in that if there was no real trading apparatus that was profitable, right? It was just a shit show, self-described shit show. And really they were siphoning money, customer funds into that shit show, either to be incinerated or to be handed to political candidates. Why would he be in Washington, again, doling out money to curry favor, to get legislation passed against DeFi, against foreign competitors like CZ, throwing him under the bus? I mean, like say, right? Throwing his kids under the bus. I mean, really? That would piss me off too. But, come after me personally, fine. Come after my kids? No, not so much. So, in fact, I had back to football. I was at a Michigan Notre Dame football game, and I'm there with my daughter and her friend, and this drunk guy comes up. He's like 50-year-old drunk guy. Comes, and he's like in my daughter's face. "What the F are you doing here? Get out of here." And I'm like, "Oh, great. Now
You were in the big house here? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, big house.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm going to hit this guy, right? And then I'm going to go to jail. He's the idiot, right? If you want to assault someone, assault me. Don't assault a 17-year-old girl. I mean, come on. And by the way, if we don't come, there's no game. So you should welcome us. If you want to thrash us on the field, fine. But anyway, so here's the big problem. If I am right that this entire thing was created by Goldman Gary and the other central banksters to destroy all the progress that we as an industry have made over the past decade, couldn't execute it better. You have a useful idiot, Manchurian candidate, that is up there sounding good. Michael, you think he sounds good? If you watch the Manchurian Candidate, when they turned that chip on, he sounded awesome. But when they turned the chip off, he was an idiot. And
you guys don't think he sounded like he knew what he was talking about?
I watched that video with Voorhees, and now I've gone back and watched some other clips since. And I agree with you. There are times when he did sound intelligent, but the description of him playing video games while the Sequoia people are there,
that read like parody. Did they publish that on their website?
It's real.
I can't believe
it's real.
Did that?
He supposedly did that during a Bloomberg interview too. That he was on a Bloomberg interview and he was somewhat distracted, and the rumor was
look how he dresses.
He was playing a video game. He was playing a video game during the interview.
Look how he dresses when he's on Washington. I mean, he did that big panel with the two girls, and look at him. That is not a picture of a great leader. It's just not. Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing a t-shirt, but this is casual. No. You don't wear gym clothes to go talk to Sequoia. You just don't. I'm sorry.
I got to be honest. Again, I feel like maybe we're on slightly different wavelengths. Who I thought that reflected the most poorly on was Sequoia. I couldn't believe that that was their reaction to. They were rejoicing that someone was playing video games while talking to them. And there was this one anecdote, where they're preparing questions for him, and the question is, "Am I talking to the world's first trillionaire?" And the partner's trying this out on the other partners at Sequoia. I was like, do you have a complete lack of understanding for how you sound to an average person? I mean,
yes,
it read like something out of Silicon Valley.
They do.
Complete.
Yeah.
Complete.
It came across so badly to me. I actually couldn't believe that it was real. It was a lot of surprises this week, at least for me.
So can I throw a question to you guys? it appears, if you look at what's some of the on-chain stuff, that every centralized exchange in the world right now that's outside the U.S. So leave Coinbase and Gemini off but all the other global exchanges are getting huge outflows, and the only person that's getting inflows right now is Binance. And where is this going to go? And are we going to see the ultimate consolidation? We're going to have one global exchange here. I mean, where do you think this is going to go?
I think, look, can I tell the story actually about, this is my framework now. Gilded Age, these are the competition tactics that I think are basically you're watching play out in real time. So John Rockefeller, he had these oil company, right? Standard Oil. And he would do business on railroads, right? So that was the way that oil used to get transported in the United States. Now they all go through pipelines.
Still is to some extent.
Still is to,
Warren
yeah.
Buffett.
Unless you live in the central part of the country where Buffett pays to keep.
Yeah, Buffett owns all the railroads that still transfer the oil.
So at one point though, there was a pipeline started to get introduced, right? And pipelines had been used in kind of a minor way, like transport like a mile or something like that. But there was this company that kind of theorized that you could do pipelines over a longer distance, and they do this. At the time, John D. Rockefeller, he had a lot of influence in Congress, right? And his lieutenants were like, hey, you got to lobby to stop this, right? This is going to be massively disruptive to our business. We got this great thing going. He's like, no. I'm just going to let it happen. So it works. They set up a pipeline. Oil is successfully transported, along this corridor. And all his lieutenants are like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? This is going to be. So what he does, he controls the railroads. He makes it free to transport oil, either makes it free or pays people to transport oil along the segment that the pipeline services. So the pipeline was going to be cheaper, but he could subsidize basically into infinity free. Pipeline starts to struggle. They go belly up. He buys it the next day, gets all of the technology, and basically starts to build his own pipelines. Where does he lay those pipelines? Right across the railroads, so that he reminds all the railroad operators who's really in charge. That, first of all, it's one of the most cold-blooded stories in business history. That's what Binance is doing.
But there's a big difference with Binance, though. I'm going to accept what CZ wrote the other day, that if the entire crypto space is going to implode, and you're going to have sub $10,000 Bitcoin, and you're going to have high hundreds in the high hundreds for Ethereum, he doesn't win on that scenario. He doesn't win by getting all of the brokerage accounts into Binance if all of the coins just wind up, disappearing, and then everybody loses apathy and they stop trading anyway. Rockefeller didn't have that. When Rockefeller bankrupted the oil companies, he didn't have the New York Stock Exchange plunging the price of his railroads by 80 or 90%.
Amen.
And that's the difference here.
Yeah. And it's such a really important point, Jim, that a total meltdown isn't good for the cause, right? It is good for the banksters. So again, back to incentives. Does CZ have the incentive to blow up the system? Nope. Does, Goldman Gary? Yep. So let's talk about incentives. It all comes down to incentives to me. And I said, I missed it. I mean, I've been stuck on that you can't, that the government couldn't ban it, that the government couldn't prohibit it, that couldn't slow the growth, because there was enough movement. There was enough people that wanted a better system, that the $7 trillion of graft and corruption in the traditional system that goes into a very small number of people at the tippy top of the all-seeing eye. I thought the movement was strong enough, but this is a blow to that. And the infighting is making it worse. And the call to get all your stuff, off the exchanges and onto my socks, into cold storage. Look, I've said it before. If all this is storing stuff on a thumb drive that you bury in your backyard, we're done. Right? We got that. That's called gold. We've had gold for thousands of years. And yeah, the digital version is a little bit better. It's more portable. It's more divisible. Fine. But gold, useful market cap isn't that big a deal. It's not that big a deal.
And to that extent, I agree with you, Mark. What my concern is when the regulation comes, and what I mean by punishment regulation is you're going to turn this into a digital version of TradFi. We already have TradFi. If we have a digital version of TradFi, we've accomplished nothing. This is, the answer is, people say the answer is DeFi and the answer is self-sovereignty. I 100% agree with that. But to get people to understand that, because the other problem you're going to have, look, we're 6 months past Terra, and we just had another blow up that was related to that. We're going to, every week, it's going to be more BlockFis and more multi-coins, and it just keeps coming and coming. And the public, and pretty soon the VCs and everybody else is just going to say, it's such a toxic shit show. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't even care if the price goes up. You can't trust it anymore. And that's going to take a long time to get that trust back. So when people say, yeah, this is the final capitulation, you're right. But that process is not going to be over with on Tuesday. It can take years, or at the very least, many, many, many months is what it could wind up taking. This is not going to be an easy process to do. And for all the builders out there, I mean, how many treasuries of FTX Ventures are now got money on, they no longer have a treasury because it's been trapped on FTX. And now they can't pay their employees. Now their projects are basically done. And how is it going to be then to find alternate sources of capital to continue with those projects? It's going to be really hard to continue to build from here.
I have the same thought. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to get a sense too of no one has a crystal ball, right? But just when I look at the most immediate outcomes, right? There are large centralized counterparties that had deep exposure to Alameda, right? There's crisis of confidence, right? Basically, there's going to be a whole bunch of different runs on banks. That's why I'm sure you've seen proof of reserves. Nanson's trying to aid other offshore exchanges with proof of reserves.
It's called DeFi. We already have it. It's called
DeFi. Right? We have that. Yeah, I've heard of that before.
Yes. By the way, look at Silvergate. Silvergate is the big bank that funds a lot of crypto. Look at what its stock has been doing this week. It has been just getting massacred right now. Yeah.
Can you explain why that is?
Because they've got loans out to crypto, and crypto is now toxic, and they've got an exposure to crypto. The other thing to watch too is the Grayscale Trust discount. I think is if it's not a record, it's going to go to a record. And that's another indication of the concern about the industry, that you can buy Bitcoin at a 40% discount or a 35% discount by buying Grayscale Trust. Nobody wants to touch it right now. And that's because those are people in the TradFi world that don't trust it. Could the price go up? Yeah, but then it'll blow up again and I won't know when to get out. So I'm just not going to play that casino. I'd rather take my money to Vegas, because when I lose all my money in Vegas, they give me a free drink. You guys don't even give me a free drink when I lose all my money. Yeah. And I get dancing girls too in Vegas. So I win twice.
You know what's really interesting? There was another point that was made that I thought was very insightful. And people are going to say, bullshit. Really, you are wearing your tinfoil hat, Yusko. Okay, we'll see. There was a great point that, again, so technically, Sequoia didn't lose any money, right? Sam gave them a couple $100 million, and they lost $150 million by giving it back to him. Okay, so technically, they didn't lose any money. I mean, they did, but okay, but it was his money. So, in fact, that's a great strategy. If you could give money to venture capitalists to have them invest in your company, that's awesome. That doesn't happen very often, but okay. Here's the part of the plan that actually someone put this out there, and it's so sinister. I love it. Have to get sinister in there for Sinister Saturday. So sinister. They're like
pretty sinister so far.
Yeah.
I would say
this is all about what's going to happen at the end. The feds are going to seize something, right? They seized Mt. Gox. They seized Silk Road. They're going to seize it, right? Then they're going to auction it off. Who's going to buy it? Sequoia. Or Paradigm, which came out of Sequoia. And again, this is very sinister stuff. If your goal is to accumulate a large asset. You don't send positive stuff out and get the price to go up. You send negative stuff. Soros was a master of this. Julian Robertson was a master of this. They want to buy a big copper position. They put 50 million short copper, spread rumors that copper is going to zero. And then when it tanks, you buy it.
You buy it.
And I think that's exactly what's going on. And I think this entire organization, it turns out there wasn't much organization there. There was not much there. It was masterfully, magnificently, marketed. The whole naming of stadiums. By the way, there's a perfect correlation with stadium naming and bankruptcies. Perfect correlation.
It is one of the best.
Enron Field, right?
Oh, yeah.
WorldCom Stadium, Tropicana. I mean, go down the list.
Oh, I didn't actually know that. That's funny. I didn't.
Perfect correlation, Michael.
That history.
It's like
really
something like 80-something% or whatever the number is of stadium names. Those companies go bankrupt.
Including, what was FTX Field called before that? I think it was Wells Fargo, and then they had their scandal, and before that it was American Airlines Field, and they went bankrupt. In Chicago we've got the United Center named after United Airlines. They went bankrupt right after they did that. The only indicator that's better than that is when some billionaire buys a sports team. Bezos wants to buy the Commanders. That's the high, at that point, because what that suggests is Bezos's attention is no longer on Amazon. It is now on finding a running back, and Amazon goes right down the chute at that point.
Yeah,
ask David Tepper how he's doing.
How's the fun doing since he
how's the fun
started...
doing? About as well as the Panthers, right?
Yeah. Oh God, and I live in North Carolina, and it's. I mean, we are the worst team in football. I mean,
speaking of the Panthers, how about the guy who's been having the worst 3 weeks maybe in history is Tom Brady. First he loses the Panthers, then he gets divorced, and now he gets rugged by FTX. How's your fall going now?
Yeah, no. So I loved that tweet, Jim. It was so good, and it's just, again, if you were scripting the perfect scam, you would involve celebrities. You would involve sports and athletics, and you would create this aura of legitimacy. But the books
Fortune favors the brave.
Fortune favors the brave, but the books wouldn't balance. Right. And if the books don't balance, it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do if you don't actually have to balance the books. Look at the United States. We can send hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine that gets funneled then back to defense companies in the districts that the senators own. Okay, but we don't have to fund it with anything because we could just run a deficit. I don't know about you.
It's amazing what you could do when you send $500 million of customer money to Sequoia to invest back into your brokerage firm.
Okay, yeah, but here's the thing. So I don't know about you, but in my family, if my income goes down, my spending has to go down. I just don't understand how that works.
I think that the important thing, we haven't touched on kind of the legend that was built around Alameda. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard SBF describe how Alameda first came to be, but it was a very similar story, very consistent story that he told over the years, which is, I used to be at Jane Street. We understood what arbitrage was. I looked at these spreads. He talks about this thing that used to exist called the kimchi premium, which was the Bitcoin that was trading locally in the United States on exchanges based over here was, at some point anywhere from like a 15 to like at times like 20 to 30% difference, right? It was much more expensive over in South Korea specifically. So I think the reason why that was an important story to tell is it implied the strategy that Alameda would use for making money, right? It implied a strategy of arbitrage as opposed to going lever long on shit. And it provided an explanation for this is how I make my money, my cash, right? Because FTX and Sam were promising enormous amounts of money, right? I don't know what the rights to that stadium cost. I don't know what the rights to TSM cost, but 500.
That's what I heard.
Okay, $500 million, Sequoia, donation. He participated in Twitter, bought or whatever. He tried to, maybe he didn't actually. But he tried to buy, or he bought that share of Robinhood, like huge amounts of like real cash money. And I think, FTX, from what I heard, I haven't looked at their books, but I heard they were not a super cash profitable business at that point. They were spending on growth. They were cash flow negative. So it begs the question, where the hell are you getting all this cash from?
Stealing it. Stealing it.
It's my money. It's your money. It's customer money. There's a lot of money.
They stole it.
Money.
This is
going
to go down as one of the great, scams in history.
And a lot of people still don't get it. I mean, Dave Portnoy had a tweet the other day. He goes, well, I bought some Bitcoin on FTX. So why can't I get my Bitcoin back? Because it's no longer there, Dave. They took it out of your account and they blew it on something. They sent you a piece of paper with a number on it, but there was nothing backing that number. Your money
and the other
doesn't
part,
exist.
To that part, Jim, look at the history of frauds. It's family. Madoff, family. It was his brother-in-law that was running the, I always say the thing about, Madoff, they call it hedge fund problem. But there was no hedge and there was no fund, right? He hadn't made a trade in 13 years, literally had not made a trade in 13 years. And there was no fund, right? The money would come in and his brother-in-law would transfer it into his personal accounts and he stole people's money. All the while.
The incredible thing about Madoff was for 13 years, they would, remember this is pre-internet, they would mail you a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers on it.
Yeah.
And you'd look at it and go, oh, wow, look at me, I'm rich.
And then the crazy.
He kept that going for 13 years. It was incredible.
But he also did the inclusion thing. He would hold court at the Palm Beach Country Club and he would sit in the corner like I am at a table for 4. I'm actually sitting at a table. And he would leave one seat open and a other member would bring a newbie to meet the king. And I was there and I watched this. This guy gets up, says, "You have to let me in. Don't you know who I am?" And the guy had said, "I'll invest, but I need to come meet your team." And Bernie's like, "No, you're out." So it was this non-transparent, opaque. So we got family. We got the ex-girlfriend running, who has no experience, none, okay, running this multi-billion-dollar trading firm. We got other family members involved, like there's some other uncle or something, or aunt that is the head of regulatory. And then you had the famous, I think they were Korean brothers, again, down in Palm Beach, that ran the crypto scam. Not the crypto, the hedge fund scam. It's always family. And you got Bankman. Oh, by the way, where did Bankman go to school? He went to this place called Yale. There's this skull and bones thing, and they're all politically connected. And Clinton, who also went to Yale and spoke at the FTX conference. And then Freed again. What is her job? What is her job? Her job is to raise money for politicos. Okay, but she's a Stanford professor. And anyway, I digress. This is bad stuff.
I have a little bit of an inside baseball question for you, but it is relevant. Has FTX been reopening for withdrawals in the last day or two? I keep reading that, or keep seeing
only in the Bahamas if you're an employee or friend of the firm.
But here's the problem.
Oh my God.
Here's the problem with that. Most bankruptcy law, and I'm no expert on bankruptcy law, let alone Bahamas bankruptcy law.
Totally illegal.
Yeah, you have to distribute money equity, and there is a thing called the clawback. And what could really blow this up is firms will come out and say, we got all our money out, we're good. And then the bankruptcy judge in a month is going to say, clawback, we want that money back. And then what's going to happen is everybody who had money with them is now suspect to a run, because they're going to have to give it back. Yeah. And so he's making this worse by letting everybody out now, because we're going to go through this whole clawback crisis coming up once they file and once we start getting into this, because all the money has to be distributed equity, and this is not equity. And so we're going to have a real problem. So be careful if you're a brokerage firm saying, no, we got all our money out, we're good. Because, come middle of December, some bankruptcy judge is going to say, I need it back. And then that's going to be a real problem.
I will corroborate what Jim is saying in two ways. One, that's exactly what happened with Madoff, right? If you got your money out at some period, I don't know what the window is, 9 months or 12 months, but I think
it's 90 days.
A meaningful window.
Yeah,
90 days. Okay.
Yeah, 90 days.
So there's this window where if you got your money out, they clawed it back. And my personal experience is one of my siblings had to declare bankruptcy, and I had provided a loan on a project that he did, and he'd sold the house. He's a home builder, and had my money. And the bankruptcy judge came back to me and said, "Nope, you got to give back 1/7 of that, because that's what the unsecured creditors are due, and you got out." And I literally had to write a check to the bankruptcy judge that gave it to the credit card companies, which are supposed to be unsecured creditors. I was secured, but that's not the way it works.
So what you got to be careful of is the way that they're handling this.
Oh, no, Michael. It's
money's going to go back in to a big pot. Yeah. Lawyers are going to get paid for 2 years to argue about it, and it's going to get remixed out and resent back to you. So you'll get your money back a little bit less in 3 years. Or if it's in the case of Mt. Gox, in 8 years and still waiting, or 9 years and still waiting. So, so he's winding up screwing everybody who got out, because now you're going to be on the hook for a clawback. And remember, maybe you have some coins in a cold storage and you don't want to give it back and you can hide. That's fine. You're a retail investor. I'm talking about other centralized exchanges, other trading shops, other VCs, miners, validators. Hey, knock on the door. I need that money back. And that's going to cause a problem. People are going to panic. I can't trust anybody now that had anything to do with FTX, because they might be on the hook for a clawback if they don't handle this thing properly. And just where I'm looking, it doesn't look like they are.
No. Jim's so right. And the one ray of hope, I want to get a little bit hopeful. I mean, we could go all day here. It is, as Jim, what we're saying, we don't want to do.
I have things to be hopeful about.
Yeah, we were going to go back. We were going to go beyond Joe Rogan. Let's go Lex Friedman and go
Lex
5
Friedman,
hours.
5 hours. Yeah. So we're definitely. And look, I was supposed to be. I'll tell a funny story on myself. So I was supposed to be in Cayman today for a Real Vision event, and I'm very sad that I'm not there. But to make a long story short, I changed bags. I used to carry a briefcase. Now I carry a backpack. And I always keep my passport in my bag. But in the process of changing bags on a trip we did over the summer when we took Will to the UK, my wife carried the passports because, anyway, I don't even know why I have.
Oh, no.
So
because I get on my flight.
Your wife. That's what they do.
Yeah, I get on my exactly. I just do it. My wife tells me, go where she says, do what she says.
Yeah,
honeydew.
Sounds like my wife.
So I get on the flight. I get to Charlotte. I walk up. And they're like, passport, please. I'm like, passport? Oh my God, I'm going to a foreign country, right? Cayman is a foreign country. I don't have my passport, so I'm still here today. But so my bad. But I can go all day.
I've done that once going to Canada for that exact same reason. I forgot.
But Canada's not a foreign country.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Isn't my driver's license good enough? I mean,
yeah, exactly. They were like, nope, sorry. I don't know. But the one thing is, we've lived through every single one before. Mt. Gox, way bigger deal than this. Could have killed the whole industry. You think about the consolidation and how much of crypto was there. Clearly, and look, what did we go to? 84% in like 2 hours that day when that happened. I think that's the number. That should have killed it, but we didn't die. And Silk Road should have killed it. We didn't die. Lots of other exchanges have gone down and we didn't die. So I actually believe we will survive and thrive. But Jim's point is really, really well taken, which is this one's more insidious, which is why I think it's all a government psyop, because there's going to be it's interwoven into so many other entities, particularly on the TradFi side. And that's where the regulatory response here is going to be draconian and punishing. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with Magic the Gathering. I've been playing it with my son, and Mt. Gox. It was called Mt. Gox because of Magic the Gathering, right?
Magic the Gathering online exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I agree with you.
I wish I knew the right card. There's a card called like the Punisher or something that literally like destroys. Oh, I think it's a murder card too. So the punishment approach of regulation, I think, is gonna be bad.
And I wanted to just echo your optimism. I do think that the industry will survive this and it will thrive. But what is the immediate road ahead is not going to be easy. This is not, people like to think that, capitulation is the other guy pukes up his position so I could buy cheap prices. Capitulation is when you puke up your positions and give up. And so this is not going to be easy. Will the industry survive? Yes. But just set your expectations that the next several months is going to be very, very difficult before this thing, eventually the storm clouds break and things get better on the other side.
I have a hope. I think if there's a silver lining in all of this that happened, it's in what we learn and take away from this as an industry moving forward, right? Like that's the only thing that you can do is get better. And what I would hope is, this whole relationship between Alameda and FTX, everyone knew about this, right? Like everyone knew, like even if he hadn't been funneling customer deposits into Alameda, it's still pretty weird to own the sole market maker, right? That gets priority flows on your derivatives exchange. That's not like a cool thing, right? Everyone just
unless you're Goldman, unless you're Goldman Sachs, then you can do it.
Right. And people turn a blind eye.
Or Citadel.
Do you think though that part of the reason they turned a blind eye is, let's go back to 20 and 21 and think about the insane shit that was going on then. I'm thinking about, Sushi Swap and Chef Naomi and all that crazy crap that was going on back then, that you're looking at, I'm transferring customer money into Alameda. This is what we've been doing in this industry the whole time. And no one had a problem with any of that stuff when we were in the middle of that mania bull market. But what we fail to recognize is this ain't a bull market anymore. And when you had the Poly hack and he gave back the money and then he got the job, I'm talking about the hacker gave back the money and then he got the job as the head of security, that these are just funny anecdotes, but that shit don't fly in bear markets. And that's what we have to start to realize, that the tide has changed now. And the other thing I wanted to, along the same lines is, from this moment forward, hacks are no longer allowed. You put out a project, it gets hacked. Go ask JP Morgan for a job. You're done in this industry.
You're done.
You cannot continue to put out half-ass projects that get hacked and go, okay, let's just do another half-ass project. That worked in 20 and 21. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the other silver lining that I'll say is part of this is, I love this industry. I've made really good friends here. I have super high thoughts about many of the people that work in this industry. I will say, there were conferences that I went to last year and these people that I was meeting and talking to, and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. I didn't get the impression that people were doing their best and in it for the long term and trying to build stuff of value. I got the impression that I was working in a big casino. And I've been pretty clear on this podcast, I want to work in this industry for my entire career. I actually care about it. And so I never liked that kind of stuff. I never liked that particular feeling. So I'm hopeful that this washes some stuff out.
And what comes out of every bear market, right? What came out of the bear market in 2018, 2019 was all the DeFi protocols, right? The Unis and the Aves and the Curves and Makers. They all came out of those bear markets. Some good is going to come out of this bear market. We don't know what it is. It may not have already been created yet. And this is going to be from the people that are committed to this industry and not just here to talk about channel breakouts and making money and whether or not the candle wicked and all that other stuff. Those are the people that just want to get in, make a lot of money, and get out. Use this place like a public bathroom. Get in, do your business, and get out. And so that's so those people are going to be washed out of this industry. But I think who's going to be left is going to make the next great set of protocols for the next bear market. But again, don't think it's next week or next month. It's going to be a little bit longer than that.
No, it's going to take time. And Michael, you said it, right? That, my friend Bill Duhamel says it, with every investment, we get richer or wiser, never both.
Yeah.
Right? Never. And you only become introspective when you lose money. And so we got a lot of introspection to do now. And I think Jim's right. From that introspection will come greatness. But I'm worried about what I've talked about this cycle, right? It's the Gandhi quote: first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you. This is the then they fight you phase. And the fight is about to take a mega notch up. The punishment that's coming is going to be, and look, she might be the worst person I've ever seen in a job, the White House press secretary, ever in my career. She's just horrible at her job. But, when she's up there mouthing the words that, crypto industry, the White House believes the crypto industry needs regulation now. Like, how about this, y'all? How about you regulate something that actually really, really, really harmed the average investor? Amazon lost more money in the last 11 months than all of the crypto industry together.
It's the first company to lose $1 trillion in market cap. Trillion.
So this whole passivization, the whole index funds are good, the buy stock at any price, that harmed 401ks, which are now 201ks. It harmed the average investor in immense ways and created massive profits for who? The people who wrote the regulation. You guys know, right, that BlackRock and Vanguard have people that write the regulation in Washington. They sit on a committee. Think about this. The people who benefit the most from mutual funds and ETFs wrote the regulation that makes mutual funds the only option for retirement accounts.
A lot of people don't understand this. That when you read this thing about, here's this 2,000-page bill that no congressman has ever written. Who is the expert in Washington that wrote that 2,000-page bill? The industry that is being regulated. They're the only people that know it. Come in here and help us write this bill.
Expert in Washington? That's like a unicorn. That
right,
expert
right.
in Washington, that does not exist.
Right. By the way, as far as Amazon losing $1 trillion and maybe regulating him, you mean the guy that owns the Washington Post and wants to buy the Commanders? You want to regulate me? Oh, wait, here, I have a ticket in a box here for the Green Bay game. Maybe that'll change your mind about regulating me. Doesn't. Like I said, why do we keep buying politicians? Because the return of investment is better in buying politicians than just about anything you've ever invested in your life.
Oh, no, Jim, I'll give you the perfect example that this one makes me seethe every time I tell the story.
I hate that.
In 2014, last time oil had the big run up, the most profitable company in America that year was ExxonMobil. They made $40 billion in profit. There was a 40% corporate tax rate at that time, which got lowered because of money from Warren Buffett to get it lowered. So he could buy Apple and get the dividends for lower cost. So long story short, they were the number one lobbying company that year. They spent $327 million in 1 year on the street. On the Capitol Hill. How much did Exxon pay in tax that year? So they should have paid $16 billion. Jim says zero. That's a good guess. Minus $1.7 billion. They got a $1.7 billion refund. They turned $327 million into $17.7 billion.
Instantly.
So it's the greatest IRR investment there is to buy politicians and buy regulatory favor. And that's what Sam's parents, Sam's parents on behalf of Silicon Valley. Because by the way, remember how many times has carried interest been threatened to be turned into ordinary income? How many times?
Yeah. I got to be honest. That one is That one's indicative to me of entrenched interests. I'll side with you on that one. That one is wild to me.
How little it took to save carried interest, right? A couple of donations to one senator in Arizona.
Not even that one wasn't even expensive. But
right.
It all goes back.
That's Couchcoin money is what they spent to save carried interest on that.
I love it.
I want to actually just talk a little bit. I mean, if this hell hadn't blown up this week, what we would have been talking about on this show, right, is first, like, we might have been touching on the midterms, right?
Maybe.
Jim too. But also, I want to talk about the CPI print that came out yesterday, because if it hadn't been for all of this stuff blowing up, it probably would have been a pretty good week for crypto, right? There was it was lower than expectations. This is sub 8 handle. It was 7.7 headline CPI. We saw things finally ease up, and markets reacted super positively. The Nasdaq closed up, 7% yesterday. It's 929 right now, so I guess we're going to see how it opens up today. But what did you guys think about the CPI print?
It was only the third time in the last 20 months that it was below expectations. So it was a shocker, because we keep hoping for this lower number, and we finally got one. We don't get that many of them. It basically showed the positioning that the market had, that you had this massive short squeeze. And I don't know if you saw it, but the Goldman Sachs has an index called the most shorted stocks, and it was up like 11 or 12% yesterday, one of the biggest up days that it's ever had. So there was no doubt that everybody was positioned very short, and they got squeezed on this. The other thing I'll point out, the up 5% day on the S&P, the biggest day since April 2020. Watching this podcast, listening to you, Mark, you're the one who pointed out to me, reminded me, the biggest up days occur in bear markets. You don't get 5% up days in bull markets. Those Never. Are what happens in. Go back and look in late 2008. How many times you had 5 or 7% up days? You had many of them. This is what happens in a bear market. You get these kind of squeezes. That doesn't mean it's a one-day affair. It will continue to go. But, just a quick take. It was a big shock, and everybody was very, very short the market. And then the last thing I'll point out, we've been doing a little bit of work on this too. Something like near 40+% of the options market, it trades on options that mature in less than a week. That the options market has become, the other big story of the week that has completely fell down the rabbit hole, which might have been a big story, was somebody won $1.9 billion in the lottery in California. California has a new billionaire.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know who it is. Well, there's lottery tickets being sold all the time on Wall Street. These are people that are playing these options that expire in 2 days. They buy these out of the money options for a penny, and they hope for something like yesterday, and then it goes to 9 cents, and I made 9x on my money. Of course, what they don't tell you is you probably lost 17 times in a row before you wind up making 9x.
Yeah, again, you want to regulate somebody, regulate that nonsense, regulate that with one button on Robinhood. You can do a leveraged option strategy with one button, and you can just vaporize money.
We're opening up weekly options. Why? What is the economic rationale for saying we need to have options on Tesla and the S&P and Amazon that expire in 48 hours? What is the economic rationale for that, other than
Ken Griffin gets richer? Because Ken owns the largest market maker in options. So it's only to make him richer.
Right.
And he paid for that legislation. Full stop. And look, Ken is smartest man I've ever met. Full stop.
Who
Absolutely.
Those 48-hour options, and this is becoming huge in this gamma squeeze that you get all the time in the market. Who's that competing with? It's competing with the strip in Vegas, because that's who, if you weren't doing that, that's what you'd be doing with your money. You're not reading Warren Buffett's annual letter if you weren't trading in 48-hour options. These are
Lost wages.
The opposite.
Lost wages has moved from a physical place in Nevada to the metaverse, right? Lost wages is happening with people day trading these stupid options. Look, 85%, and this is a real number. 85% of statistics are made up on the spot. This is actually a real number. So 85% just happens to be the same number of options expire worthless. 85%. Think about it. If you flip a coin, you got a 50-50 chance. But anytime someone wants to buy a call, they should buy a put. If you want to buy a put, you should buy a call. You should do the opposite of what your nature tells you to do.
The George Costanza strategy is what you should
exactly.
do, right?
And but here's the craziness of all of this is there are zero up 4% days in a bull market. Absolutely zero. I mean, none. And people say, no, there are some. I'm like, no, there are not. Because the very bottom, right, where it makes the final inflection, that's still not a bull market. It has to go up 20% to get to the bull market. So every single up 4% day, every single one is in a bear market. Because what is a bear market? A bear market is a market that goes down on most days and up sharply. The key is sharply on good news or perceived good news. Yesterday was perceived good news. It was not good news. 7.7% CPI is not good news. It's a perception of good news that caused a massive short squeeze. I mean, there were some stocks yesterday, like Carvana. Carvana is a zero. The equity of Carvana is worthless. Their liabilities exceed their assets. It's a worthless business. It went up 30% yesterday. 30%. Okay. And yet it's barely visible. I tweeted out another one where it went up 20% and is barely visible on the down 90% year to date. Because, the math is really hard. If you're down 90% and you go up 20%, you made 2 points back of the 90 you lost. So it's a long way. It's a long way back. But bull markets go up every day or most days and go down sharply on bad news or perceived bad news. The one thing, and someone did point this out to me that I actually wrote a long time. I did this paper on Soros and reflexivity. And one thing George talks about is that when you get close to a phase shift, you get increased volatility. It's like when water is about to shift to gas or solid, the molecules start vibrating really fast. So when you do get a lot of these big moves up or down, you're at a transition point. So we are probably closer to the ultimate bottom. I don't think we're there because Jim's been hammering on this. The economic data, forward looking, is atrocious.
Yeah,
it's atrocious. And the earnings are going to be awful. And the multiples are still high, particularly because they're like, yay, he's only going to raise 50 basis points. That's still tightening, y'all.
That's got this perversion in the market too. It's almost like what market players are saying is, I just wish we would have a recession. Everybody'd lose their job and earnings would fall apart because then the Fed will cut rates and we could then rally the market in all of that disaster. So it's like they're cheering on bad news. And this is never going to end well. By the way, just so everybody remember, you said 4% days in a bull market. Yesterday, we were up 5.5. So, so if you want to make the case that we broke the cycle yesterday, and you're right, a bull market, I actually think a bull market only begins when you go beyond the old high. I don't think the bull market starts till you get above 4,800. Otherwise, it's kind of like, it's like, the 2 and 20 model that you keep paying. You got to go above the high water mark. You can't keep paying for the same real estate over and over again.
That's a really important point. And look, we're in a bear market in equities. We're in a bear market in bonds and credit. Look at Tesla bonds, 60 cents on the dollar. I mean,
that's not good.
I mean, Twitter bonds too, 60 cents on the dollar. I may have those two conflated. But I thought Tesla bonds were down too. Maybe they're down.
They're down with the stock. And his sell earlier this week, he sold a bunch of stock. He sold $4 billion worth of stock earlier this week didn't help.
Yeah. How about taking over a company and then telling the employees that you didn't fire? We probably are going to go bankrupt. Love that.
I actually, something that I heard that this probably isn't the biggest of deals, but I cannot imagine what these phone calls must have gone like. He came in, first of all, he comes in with a kitchen sink, basically grinning with glee, like childish glee that he's going to chop.
Wasn't that 2 weeks ago, by the way? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And
yeah,
we're
2
talking
weeks
about
ago.
bankruptcy. Can you imagine what JP Morgan and all the other lenders must feel like that 14 days after they extended the loan? I can only imagine what those loans are trading at in the secondary market right now.
So he does that. He fires 50% of the people. Then he actually finds out that some of the people that he fired were mission critical employees, has to call them and ask them to come back to work. That is, I mean, I can't imagine being on the phone call, but it's happening all over in big tech because, Meta laid off 11,000 people this week.
And their stock rallied 6%. I love it.
I actually kind of like that. Let me make a case. I feel like I'm sounding, let me make a case to you guys. I actually don't view everything that's going on and everything that the Federal Reserve is trying to accomplish as a negative outcome. I will say, like, one huge headache for me, like, I even talk with a lot of my friends, right, who are in a slightly different age bracket than you guys. And people might be pretty surprised. Actually, maybe it isn't surprising to you guys, but like what a lot of people are saying is like, do I really need to work? Like, maybe I should just take like a year off and, travel. And it's like, these aren't people that have enormous savings. Or I was always in the back of my mind, like, how are you going to fund this stuff? And, the discussion in HR professionals is like, this 5-day work week is going to be over soon. And, people want their feelings heard. That doesn't align with my personal philosophy of how the world works. And I do think with layoffs in big tech and, you're starting to see a return to something that feels more normal, I suppose. Do you think there's any merit to that viewpoint at all? Or what do you guys kind of think about that?
What do you mean by more normal? I mean, I'll just say to you that I don't think that the work from home thing is going to go away. We're in a permanent hybrid.
I don't think so either.
We're a permanent hybrid model. We're not going to go back to the office 5 days a week. I know Elon is pushing them back 5 days a week. We'll see how that winds up working.
Except for him. I mean, he can be remote, but that's okay.
Yeah, on his new G700, he could be remote as well. I think, to your larger point, if I'm reading the question right, this is normal, what we have now. This is like the new post-pandemic normal. Pandemics do make major changes in society. What they do, they don't create a new trend. They speed up trends. Yeah. So Nick Bloom of Stanford University has done a lot of work on this, and he points out where we are with work from home. We were going to be here in 25 years. We just got here in 2 because of the pandemic. So now we have to assimilate to this. What's happening with the supply chain? What's happening with a lot of other things? Tension in the world with the Ukraine. This was all going to happen anyway. It just all happened really fast. And now we have to kind of assimilate to it. And for those that keep saying, no, we got to go back to 2019. That's my pre-pandemic world. We're not going back there. We're not going back there. Now, I didn't say this new world's dystopian. It's not. It's different. But if we keep applying the old model to what we've got now, we're going to keep running into trouble. I've used the analogy, the closest thing that we've go doing with the economy now is the post-World War II period. The big difference, September 45, the war ends. Everybody knows we're now going different. We're going into a peacetime economy. In 1947, no one goes, when do I get my job back making Sherman tanks? Because that world is over.
Yeah, right.
But in 2022, Dave Solomon, if the head of Goldman Sachs, is saying, oh no, we're going to get everybody back in the office in 5 days a week here soon. We're going back to 2019. That's where I got the phrase. Those were his exact words. That's like I said, that's like in 1947 asking where your job is making Sherman tanks. We're not going back there. But what we are, don't confuse that with dystopian. And the sooner we understand this, the economy needs to be restructured for this new world. The sooner we could get about restructuring it. But we don't want to restructure it. We want to have a debate whether or not we need to in the first place. So we're wasting time is what we're doing. And this is going to take some time.
Well, we have a bad focus, right? It's, Trump came down when he was campaigning to Jim's point and said to this woman on TV, I'm going to get your job back. Textile worker displaced because her job went to China. I'm like, no, you're not. Not ever. That job's never coming back from China. Never. No way. Zero. You might get her a different job, get her to college, a community college degree, get her a job in look at the future, but you're not getting her job back. No way. But here's the problem. And this is a giant problem. So we got the participation trophy problem. That's a massive problem. We told kids they're great their whole life. They don't have to work, whatever. That's a generational issue. And it's the parents' fault, not the kids' fault. But the real issue for me is 10 years ago, China made a decision to be the best in the world at AI and 5G. We made a decision to be best in the world at social media. And we fucking rock social media. Our social media companies are amazing. Although they just outdone us with TikTok. By the way, did you see this thing about TikTok?
Blew us out of the water with TikTok.
What they show the Chinese kids,
this
science,
is a different TikTok.
math, nationalism.
Heavily
and what they show us is, naked pictures and, just nonsense, right? So here's the thing. Social media is the problem. Think about most of what Web 2 is. Most of what Web 2 is entertainment. Ask my 11-year-old's classmates, what is your aspiration? Influencer. I want to be an influencer. I want to be a YouTuber. Are you freaking kidding me?
It's the new fireman, right? That's what 11-year-olds, when
we
we grew up, Mark, that's what they wanted to be.
We have to make things, and they don't have to be physical things like Sherman tanks or brick and mortar buildings, but we have to make the future. And the future is DeFi. The future is code. The future is, AI and ML are going to eat software. Software ate the world for 20 years, AI and ML. This idea that we can just all entertain each other, that is dystopian, because that is the WALL-E, where there's those giant blobby people on the lounge thing with their big gulp watching the screen, telling them how to think, telling them what to do. No. That is not where we need to be. And if it were up to me, I'd obliterate it. You want to go regulate something? Go regulate how much time people can scroll Instagram. In China, 40 minutes. If you are under 14, 40 minutes, and it turns off.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I'm coming over a little bit to your guys' way of thinking on this. It's not a healthy thing. I mean, you guys are also parents. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on my feed where I don't think young kids should be
nightmares.
Able to do it.
I deal with nightmares twice a week from stuff that he gets served up that he doesn't understand, that is and it pisses me off. And you do the parental controls and that helps a little, but it's insidious. The algorithms are insidious, and it's frustrating. And I don't know. The whole thing makes me angry. And look, it's worse for girls than boys. I mean, I'm lucky my littlest guy is a boy.
I agree with that.
What social media does to the self-esteem of young girls, I mean, it is horrific. It is horrific.
It's horrendous. All right, guys. I appreciate you both been super generous with your time here.
This was big fun.
I want to get closing statements on the sort of two things that we talked about. So you think, pretty firmly still in a bear market, there's still rate hikes to be had and pain to be felt in markets. And then I'd love to get kind of closing thoughts on this whole, SBF debacle and sort of where we go from here.
Yes. The industry is still too important and has too much to offer that it will ultimately go away. But it's going to have to start to rethink its tie to centralized exchanges and centralized authorities, and maybe push more towards DeFi and more towards use cases. What is the big no coiner argument? What do you do with these coins? Well, let's find ways that you could do something with them other than hodl them and lend them out and make more money and interest, like use them in payments and other things. And if we did that, you could present the industry as an alternative to the current financial system, which no one is happy with. And I might add, when no one is happy with, here's another fun stat for you real quick on that side. There's 11 sectors in the S&P 500. In the last 15 years, The worst performer of those 11 is the financials. And within the financials, the worst performer is the banks. The market is sending you a signal. This industry, TradFi, is ready for disruption. Now, somebody come up with an idea of how to disrupt it. DeFi is that idea. So let's get away from the casinos bullshit, and let's get away from the perpetual futures trading and all this other stuff, and let's get on to the idea of building a better version of a financial system and offering that with self-sovereignty and everything else that it has to offer to people. And this industry will be just fine. But if you're waiting in your account for number go up and talking about mooning again and all that other stuff, we're not going to be fine. And so this is going to be a major inflection point for the industry. I happen to still be optimistic on it. It's going to take some pain. It's not going to be easy, but it rarely ever is.
Yeah, I mean, everybody re-roll the tape, go back and listen to the 2 minutes that Jim just summarized so perfectly and so eloquently exactly the issue. I mean, this is it, right? It is about building the new financial system. And this goes back to fintech, right? We had 20 years of fintech. And there were a lot of big companies created, a lot of fortunes made, a lot of fortunes lost. But the problem was there was no tech. All we did is we took better UI, UX. We took things out of banks and put them onto apps. You don't get your mortgage from a bank anymore. You get it from an app. You don't get a loan from a bank anymore. You get it from an app. And so to Jim's point, why are banks the worst performing? Well, for lots of reasons, but that's part of it is the most profitable parts of their business got moved, but there was no tech. We're still using the 70-year-old ACH, FedWire, SWIFT system. And now we actually have tech. Blockchain is the tech that takes us to the evolution of the financial system. And what the internet did to media and commerce, completely disrupted tired, worn out, bad industries and moved it into the 21st century. And all that market cap from the big incumbents went to the newbies, the Netflixes and the Amazons and the Apples. And that was amazing. Blockchain does that to financial services. But to absolutely Jim's point, revolutionizing or evolutionizing, because it doesn't have to be radical, it could just be an evolutionary process, isn't about blowing everything up. It's about iterating on the good and doing things better. But most importantly, it's not about taking the same model, TradFi, and making it digital, making it electronic. You have to take the new things that are better, self-sovereignty and peer-to-peer and permanent immutable ledgers. And all of that has to be embedded. But here's the thing. There's a transition point. And that transition point is knowledge and experience and wisdom. And I say this because I'm the old guy, right? Respect your elders. Every one of these innovative companies should go find a person from the TradFi industry with lots of experience and bring them in and embrace them and have them help. I mean, I love Zach and Flory. I love them. Put a lot of money with them. We made a lot of money together, and unfortunately, looks like we're not going to get it all out. But what they should have done is brought in some gray hair or white hair or some other color, blue, it doesn't matter, and got some people with experience to help them navigate the transition, because the incumbents were going to fight. And guess what? If you brought somebody who had some relationships, maybe he could deflect some of the fight. He or she could deflect some of the fight. So I just think youthful enthusiasm and energy is the only thing that has ever changed the world. Full stop.
Just two quick things to follow up, Mark. Agree with you. Blue Star has a fintech index, a fintech stock index. It's down nearly 70% this year. And that's because of what you said. If you take crap and you make it into an app, it is still crap.
I love it.
And
you
that's
take crap,
basically,
you drop the C, and it's an app. I love it.
Exactly. Because that's all fintech is. You're taking the lousy TradFi system and you're sticking it on a phone. It's still the lousy TradFi system.
Oh my God. And it was all written in C++. So apps are just crap without the C. Oh
and
my
about
God, that's
and,
so awesome.
and as far as having an old guy or a white-haired guy or an older guy on your staff, they're there for one reason. They've blown up. Anybody who's been in this business, you blow up. As I said, there's only two types of traders in the world. There's traders that are blowing up and traders that will blow up. You blow up as a trader. You blow up in this business, but you survive it. And then you carry that wisdom and go, I've seen this before and I know how this movie ends. And you could bring that wisdom to the table. Let's not make this mistake again. Because as we talked about earlier, I just see, crypto just rerunning all the mistakes of TradFi. They've already done it. Why can't you learn from it and not make these mistakes all over again? Because you don't want to bring anybody in that's done that. So now all the 30-somethings have to just repeat the same mistakes. That everybody else does. So
Can I point out one mistake that's like extremely frustrating for me to watch, because it seems kind of obvious, is like, people, just because something can be used as collateral doesn't mean it should be used as collateral. And everyone is like, if you look at a lot of the stuff, people are excited. But thank God we never found a way to use NFTs as collateral, because
we were working on it.
We were working on it.
It was always going to be a disaster. And anyone with the two eyes and a brain could look and see that was never going to work. But I mean, even it's been surprising to me that these blue chip trading desks and everything, they were using this stuff as collateral. And also the real one is companies collateralizing things with their own equity. That is literally what Enron. That's literally what Enron did.
Right.
I don't why.
Literally.
Can we just put that in stone?
You know what that is when you create with your own equity or your own token, is you've created your own printing press. But in order for your printing press to work, you need to have two other things. You need to have taxing authority and a standing army. Because if you don't have those and you create a printing press, it's not going to work.
No, go back to the free banking era. That's exact as Jim describes. Go back to the free banking era. Texas had their own money. Corporations had their own money because there was no national bank. Andrew Jackson killed the national bank charter. But you don't have the standing army. And look, the only reason a monetary system in history has stood is because you had the most powerful navy. Full stop, right? You were the world reserve currency because you had the most powerful navy. What China figured out a decade ago is the next era of dominance will be chips, not ships. It's not your naval superiority. It is your cyber superiority. And that's what the promise of blockchain does, is it takes us away from nation states, brings us into the metaverse where you can be sovereign anywhere you want. You can be part of any community you want, but we have to have communities and sovereignty around ideas that don't have, unlimited printing presses, that aren't, collateralizing with their own equity. And so I am a little bit sympathetic to the Bitcoin maxi saying that this digital gold should be the base layer. Yeah. Gold has been the base layer of the monetary system for 5,000 years. 5,000 years. Right. So digital gold is the base layer. That's fine. But the base layer is not all there is. The monetary system works, and I defy anyone to show me different. Name a country that has a bad fractional reserve banking system that you would live in. I will wait. No one will tell me one, because fractional reserve banking on its own is not bad. It's only bad when it's abused, either through excess leverage or bad collateral or lack of risk management. So what we had was not bad ideas. Centralized exchanges are not bad. They are not evil. Run improperly, and maybe in FTX cases, run for a different purpose than being an exchange, then they're bad. But the idea is not bad. And rallying against rehypothecation and rallying against leverage is wrong. It's wrong-headed. It will not advance us forward. we need to come around this idea that Jim talked about, which is create the bones, the base layer technology of this new financial system, and we will emerge stronger and dominant as an industry and as a cohort and as a community.
The one thing that I'll say is as a positive as well, moving to the protocol layer as opposed to the financial infrastructure layer, this is when, a lot of this does remind me, frankly, like right now, Ethereum is viewed as extremely blue chip, in some circles, just as blue chip as Bitcoin, right? Depending on whatever your persuasion is. There was a period of time in 2018 when it looked like that was going to zero. I mean, it was in free fall from 1440 or whatever the high was back then down to $86. And on top of that, like nothing was working. And on top of that, right now there's DeFi and Uniswap and Compound. None of that shit existed back then. And it looks like, and during these periods of time, this is when the true believers emerged. You get forged in the crucible here. And I think there will be, it's up for grabs, right? But there will be communities like that come out of this particular period of time where there's not a monetary incentive to stay anymore. And people are just there shipping code, building belief. Like this is when those really great, excellent communities end up getting built.
Amen.
So
amen. Yeah.
Those will come out of this. I'm not going to name anyone. I have a couple ideas, but yeah, I think great communities will come out of this. But guys, we've done this proud. I think gone for about 2 hours here. So I think we've done. It was a ton of fun, Mark. We always have fun, but Jim, it's great to have you on.
Thank you. I enjoyed it very much.
No, awesome, Jim, thanks for being here, and thanks everybody again who listens to this every week. I am so humbled every time I meet somebody who says, "Hey, I have coffee with you every Saturday." I'm just like, just makes me feel good because I love doing this. I love Michael for having the genius to put this together a year ago, and when we can attract superstars like Jim to join us, it's just unbelievable.
All right, fellas, this has been a ton of fun. We will see you both soon.
All right. Be well.
See you.
All right. Be well.